Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. You know how this works. We take a topic, we take a book, we take some source material and really dive into it.
That's right. And today we're going to early 20th century Brazil.
Ooh, exotic. I like it.
It is pretty fascinating, yeah.
Okay, so what are we diving into?
So we're going to be looking at this character, Dr. Rodrigo Cambará,
Oh,
from this book, O Tempo e O Vento. It's a big multi-generational saga, but we're going to be specifically looking at excerpts from the second volume, O Retrato. It gives us these little snippets into his life.
so it's kind of like a portrait of his life, even if it's not a literal portrait.
Exactly. We'll see how his personal story kind of intersects with all these major events and social shifts.
I like it. So Rodrigo Cambará, take us back to his early days. Where does this all begin?
Well, it begins with his aunt, Maria Valeria.
Oh, aunts can be influential.
Mhm.
Mine was. What was so special about her?
She absolutely doted on Rodrigo. I mean, she indulged him with head scratches while also like engaging him in these deep political discussions.
Wow, that's that's quite the combination. Head scratches and politics, huh?
It really is. But you can kind of see how that early exposure combined with her clear adoration, how it kind of instilled in him this deep fascination with the political landscape.
Yeah, I can see that. And that probably planted the seed for, some of his future ambitions.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of shaping trajectories, eventually he kind of follows in the footsteps of a figure from his childhood, the town doctor, Dr. Matthias.
Oh, so
Uh,
maybe like growing up, he was thinking, oh, I want to be just like Dr. Matthias.
right. And I mean, this was medicine, in those days, a much different
Oh,
practice.
leeches and stuff, right?
Well, maybe not luchas, but, Dr. Matthias's advice to Rodrigo is all about a more kind of hands-on, almost folk wisdom approach to healing.
Okay, I see what you mean. Less sciencey, more experience-based.
Exactly. And then you have the anecdote about Taboka.
Taboka. Now, that's a name that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, so Taboka was this indigenous healer practicing alongside, quote unquote, modern medicine.
Oh, wow. So it's like two different worlds of healing kind of colliding.
Right. You've got traditional healers like Taboka using herbal remedies right alongside Rodrigo, who's been trained in, European medical techniques.
Huh. So, Rodrigo, what about his personal life? Was it all work and no play?
Oh, no, not at all. The novel kind of gives us these glimpses into the social scene of Santa Fe.
Okay. What is he getting up to? Fill us in.
It's fascinating, right? You've got him hanging out with this eccentric bunch, Don Tepe, this staunch critic of society, Chiru, who's obsessed with finding buried treasure.
Okay. I am liking these people.
And then there's Rubim, kind of an intellectual, a firebrand.
But there's always one in the group.
Always.
Yeah,
And their discussions, wow, they get pretty heated.
I bet. About what?
Oh, Rubim advocates for an elite class, like not really caring about educating the masses.
Okay.
And Don Pepe, on the other hand, he's all about uplifting everyone.
Classic debate.
Mm.
But while they're debating the fate of society, Rodrigo's navigating his own dilemmas,
Mm.
especially when it comes to, well, love.
Oh, yeah. That's where things get juicy.
Lay it on us.
So his relationships with women, they run the gamut from, well, ladies of the night, let's just say, to his ultimately very complicated relationship with Flora.
Flora. This sounds serious.
It does get serious. And you have to remember the societal expectations, right?
Yeah.
His near scandal with Flora, who was married at the time,
Oh, no, no.
could have ruined him. Thank goodness for his godfather.
Godfathers to the rescue. Always.
Right. Smooths things over, and they end up getting married.
Oh, that was a close one.
It was. But you know what I found really, really funny and relatable? It's how much Rodrigo agonizes over proposing to Flora.
Oh, yeah, proposing.
Mhm.
I can see how that would be a stressful thing.
Totally. He's like overthinking every little detail, second guessing himself. It makes you wonder if it's just like pre-wedding jitters or, maybe some deeper anxieties there.
Ooh, good question. And just when things are settling down, Halley's Comet decides to make an appearance.
Right. 1910. There it is, this big cosmic wild card.
Talk about timing.
Yeah.
So how does Santa Fe react to a comet?
Well, you get a whole mix of reactions, right? Some are terrified, some think it's a divine omen,
Yeah.
and others, they just want to party.
Hey, I can relate to that. Why not, right?
Exactly. It's like a microcosm of how people deal with, the unknown.
So, Rodrigo, amidst all this cosmic chaos, what's he thinking?
Well, he's contemplating his impending marriage, having these deep philosophical conversations with his future father-in-law.
So it's like this grand celestial event is the backdrop to his very personal, like, internal journey.
Exactly. But while the comet is up there sparking existential reflections, down on Earth, things are heating up politically. And this is where things really start to get interesting for Rodrigo.
Oh, how so?
Well, remember Senator Pinheiro Machado?
Refresh my memory.
Right. So he was this powerful political figure, and he ends up getting assassinated. It was a huge deal.
Wow.
And for Rodrigo, who was a big supporter of the senator, this event becomes very personal.
Okay, I can see how that would shake things up for him.
Yeah.
So we've got a comet, we've got an assassination. Rodrigo's personal life is about to get a whole lot more complicated.
Oh, you have no idea. But we'll dive into all that after a quick... Well, we don't have breaks, so we'll just jump right back into it.
More drama, more intrigue, more Rodrigo. This is getting good.
It is.
Okay, stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Oh, wait.
No breaks.
Wait, no breaks. Onward.
It's amazing how his life just seems to intersect with all these major historical events, you know?
Yeah, it's like his story becomes this, like, window into understanding Brazil's evolution during this time.
Exactly, and it doesn't stop with the assassination. World War I breaks out, and even Santa Fe, this seemingly remote town, you know, feels the impact.
It's a reminder that the world's always been more connected than we sometimes think, huh?
Totally. And we see these, like, divided loyalties emerge, you know, mirroring what's happening on a global scale.
And where does Rodrigo land in all of this?
Oh, he's passionately pro-France, which makes sense given his, you know, his admiration for French culture and ideas.
Right, right. So that puts him at odds with some of his fellow townspeople then.
Exactly, particularly those with German descent.
Oh, wow. So things are getting a little tense.
Yeah, you could say that. He's very vocal, you know, championing the Allied cause, putting himself out there, having these heated debates, even risking his own social standing.
Wow, he's really putting his neck out there, huh? Strong convictions.
For sure. But while he's busy with all this international drama, things are about to get a whole lot more complicated back home.
Oh, what's happening now?
This is where his personal life takes this kind of a dramatic turn, you know? Cracks start to appear in his marriage.
Okay.
And then there's Tony Weber.
Tony Weber, fill us in.
So Tony is this young musician, and their affair becomes a real turning point in the novel.
Okay.
It really exposes this this tension between, like, individual desires, societal expectations, and the consequences of, well, defying those expectations. You know?
Right.
It makes you think, right, especially about the realities for women back then.
Absolutely. So what happens with Tony and Rodrigo?
Well, the situation becomes even more complicated when Tony, when she gets pregnant.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Rodrigo's initial reaction, I mean, it's panic, right?
Yeah.
The potential scandal, the impact on his reputation, his family.
The weight of all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He even considers abortion. And for a while, he thinks about maybe having Tony marry another man, you know, to avoid the whole disgrace thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how he'd be grasping at straws.
It's really where the author dives deep into the complexities of Rodrigo's character. He's wrestling with his conscience, his love for Tony, and this fear of social ruin.
Oh, that's tough. A real battle between his heart and the pressures of society. What a terrible situation.
It is, and tragically, it all ends with Tony taking her own life.
Oh.
Rodrigo is left completely devastated. I mean, the guilt, the grief.
That's heartbreaking.
It is, and the aftermath is just as gripping. You see the priest visiting him, offering comfort, and then there are all these rumors swirling around Tony's death. It's, you know.
Yeah.
Rodrigo ends up escaping to the family ranch, like he's running away from it all.
Trying to outrun the pain, the guilt.
Exactly. But we all know you can't really outrun your past, right?
Nope. It always catches up.
And it does. Years later, we find Rodrigo back in Santa Fe, now a respected figure, but facing a whole new set of challenges. This time, the conflict comes from within his own family. His son, Eduardo.
Eduardo. What's going on with him?
Eduardo is a communist.
Whoa. Okay, so a real generational clash here.
Big time. And it's so interesting how the author uses this this father-son dynamic to really explore those ideological shifts happening in Brazil.
Yeah.
Rodrigo, you know, a man of his time, is having a hard time wrapping his head around Eduardo's beliefs.
So it's like he's confronting his own past, his own choices, in a way.
Absolutely. And in the middle of all of this, there's this powerful symbol that kind of ties everything together. Rodrigo's portrait, painted by his old friend Don Pepe.
Oh, the portrait, the O Retrato.
Right.
It's
tactile.
Okay, so what's the significance of this portrait?
Well, it becomes this meditation on time and legacy. Don Pepe even says something like, "Look, Rodrigo, this is you facing your own mortality."
Wow. It's heavy stuff.
It is, and he keeps emphasizing how the portrait will outlive Rodrigo, how it'll stay young while he ages.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Like how we all change, we all age, but the things we leave behind, the art, the memories, they kind of endure.
Exactly. And Rodrigo's story, with all the ups and downs, the good and the bad, the choices, the consequences, it reminds us that life is messy and unpredictable and full of contradictions. But in those contradictions, that's where the real essence of what it means to be human, that's where we find it.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the life and times of Dr. Rodrigo Cambará. I hope everyone enjoyed this little journey through Brazilian history and, well, the human heart.
Me too. It's a fascinating story, and I hope it inspires people to maybe check out the book.
Absolutely. And before we go, we always like to leave our listeners with something to think about. So, here it is. If your life were to be summed up in a portrait, what would it look like? What details? Beyond just the surface,
Would it show those hidden struggles? The joys, the regrets, all the things that make you you. It's something to think about, right?
It is. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, keep diving deep.
Would it capture, like, the essence of who you are? You know what I mean?
Right. Would it be like a snapshot of just one moment? Or would it somehow show the whole, the whole journey, the whole evolution?
That's a good point. Because with Rodrigo, it's like his portrait, it's not just about him at that one point in time, right?
Yeah.
It's about everything that led up to it.
Exactly. All those experiences that shaped him.
Yeah, it's almost like the author's saying, like, hey, look deeper. There's more to this than meets the eye.
Totally. And Rodrigo's story, it's a good reminder that life is never simple,
Oh, yeah, it's messy.
It's unpredictable.
Full of contradictions.
But those contradictions, that's what makes us human.
Right. I think so. Well said. Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into the life and times of Dr. Rodrigo Cambará. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a fascinating story. Definitely recommend checking out the book if you haven't already.
Absolutely. And as always, thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep diving deep.